MotorX 2023. I'm here with Daryl with Boosted the Ute. If you've never seen this ute before, you've been living under a rock because this car's won so many awards. What do you reckon? You take us for a bit of a walk around the car, and it's just before that, how good to see it here at MotorX?
Yeah, it is, and like you say, if you haven't seen this car, and there's people that haven't, but this car here is the second oldest in this hall, so it's 16 years old this year. So
yeah, wow.
Yeah, my son was 4 months old when I debuted it in the MotorX series when I won that, and now he's 16 years old at this show.
And here he's helping you pack up the set here
at
the Show Car Hall of Fame.
Yeah, so he couldn't help me pack up back in the day, but now he's a good little helper. So yeah,
sweet.
Yep.
Well, let's spin this around, have a bit of a chat. 2006-07 is when MotorX is really, a winner.
Yeah, it was back in the high-tech days when auto salon was all the rage, and the car was built to go to auto salon. But I found with what I did with this car, I was able to cross over between street machine and hot rodding and that high-tech. It was one of the first cars, I believe, to be able to do that, and a lot of people will say that it was accepted at a hot rod show. A lot of street machines aren't accepted at a hot rod show, so we brought it down to Victorian Hot Rod Show, I think 08, and it did really well too. So I think it offers a lot for a lot of people, and even today, there was a kid that was too young to go to auto salons. He had magazines, and he'd seen it in magazines, and he couldn't believe he was seeing it in person because he hadn't seen it yet. So it was pretty cool to bring it out for another show, and again, have my son here and all that sort of stuff. So,
for those who don't know, tell us a bit about the build, like where the ute came from and the inspiration behind building it to this level.
So my dad knocked around with Fitzy when he was younger, so the Canberra boys. My dad bought the car brand new in 1990, and then it sort of was in the business, and then I bought it off him, and he'd sort of lowered it and put a set of wheels on. And I then got a new ute, and it wasn't worth it, and I started chopping it up every weekend. My dad would come over, every 2 weeks he'd come over, and there was the angle grinder, and right when I had the angle grinder in the middle of a section, my old man walked through the shed door like that, and I'm like, oh, and he thought it'd never get back on the road. He's very proud of it these days though. So, but the basis of it is a 1990 Holden Rodeo. It's got the original Rodeo engine, albeit with a bit stronger internals and a dirty great big turbocharger hanging off the side. Engine makes 400 kilowatts in its heyday. I was going to try to get it on the dyno today just for shits and gigs because it would have been cool for people to see, but it was rainy and it wasn't so good. So 400 kilowatts was about its maxed out, which back in the day actually was really good.
A lot of power.
It was a lot of
totally.
power. And for a little four-cylinder, now they make gazillions. So engine drivetrain's pretty standard. It was built in a shed and on a budget. It really was. I was 16 years younger, so I was at a young family, and I was building, and the car was built with friends and on a budget. It wasn't a shed build. I have a friend who's a trimmer, friend who's a painter, and we just did it all ourselves. About hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours. So, and anything we couldn't get, we just make. We'd machine it up. Like nowadays, they CNC mill stuff. We'd make a brake bracket, and it'd look pretty cool. We'd clamp it to the other piece of steel and cut the other piece of steel and then grind them together, and that's our brake. You know what I mean?
Innovation on the run.
Times have changed a lot, but I used to be quite good at fiberglass work, so the interior and the front clip and everything's all done by fiberglass. And that was, again, just done in my shed. I got a heap of foam together, stuck it together, and rasped what I wanted and made a mould. Just did it all myself, just made moulds and then glassed it all myself. A good friend of mine had a glass shop, and that's how we did it, so yeah. All of the suspension is all custom, so nearly every piece of the suspension, we kept the middle part of the chassis. The front is all custom wishbone airbag suspension, so it lays flat. It'll squash a cigarette paper. The 4-link rear, so using the original Rodeo rear diff, and honestly with 400 kilowatts and a standard type gearbox out of it, it's been reconditioned out of a 5-speed Holden Rodeo, and it still takes all that power, so pretty good. And the diff as well, we've had the diff tightened up so it locks up a bit quicker, but apart from that, yeah. Suicide doors, moving to the body, we've floated most of the glass suicide doors. One thing that was really important for me was making sure everything worked. So everything down to the handbrake light works on my car. It doesn't have air conditioner or a heater, so it's got a heater that heats the windshield. But apart from that, the power windows work. Everything actually works like a car should. It's drivable. When you take it away from a show, I've got to bolt in some bump stops and use the auto raise on the airbags, and we're pretty well done. So. The body's been shaved, unibody, so a lot of people don't notice that the cab's joined to the tray, and the tray's been smoothed, and little tricky bits like the glass here. So Rodeo glass ends up about here. So this has been infilled, so we smoothed out all of the rails, all of the channels, smooth tub, and then we we continued the same underneath. It was never meant to be anything but a show car. It was always built to be. Some people are going, I went too far. I knew what I was doing. I knew what I was getting myself into. But it's something that I enjoy doing. It's a passion. I'm a builder by trade and building buildings, but this is something that I just enjoy doing, you know. It's the same old thing. It annoys you as much as you get the pleasure out of it, but the pleasure in the end is really, really cool.
And being such a big car, this definitely inspired a generation of other mini truckers and stuff to do their thing, right?
Yeah, I think in today's mini trucking world, in Australia at least, I think it's still held in fairly high esteem. You know, you never know what people say about it, but I think it was, I think, and I've been told that it really lifted the bar in Australia for how mini truckers were perceived and what you could do, you know, and where you could take them, because a lot of the mini truckers wouldn't take them to, you know, I think this year's smoothie winner was a mini truck, you know, so that tells you where things have gone, and things evolve anyway. It's not necessarily me, but this was certainly one of the top tier cars. It was in the year it won every auto salon, so it was probably, you would call it one of the best Hot 4 cars. So, and then like I said, it crossed over into Summer Nats, into the Hot Rod Show, so which was really good. It was built like that. It was built with that. You know, we got people in Canberra like the Fitzpatricks and that's the guys that you look up to. You know what I mean? And winning Summer Nats and everything. That was, even my old man, I think one day he goes, you know, Fitzy's won that. I'm like, yeah, Dad.
No, I think there's anything.
Not
much Fitzy hasn't.
I think most people know that.
He hasn't won. There's not much he hasn't won.
And you think you're going to win it? And I'm like, yeah, maybe, maybe. Yeah, my dad's always like that, but he's super proud at the end of the day. So yeah.
And what about the car today? You know, you've enjoyed it so much, but still enjoying the car to this, you know, very
didn't drive it for 4 years for one reason or another, basically a divorce, and it got back to it 6 years later, and my son had grown up. He was now 10 to 16 or 9 to sort of 15, and I did a couple of skids in it with him, you see this. I got this is cooler than I thought, Dad. So doing a couple, and we did, it was really nice to take it out to a show, but I'd love to get it on the road now. It's done 400 kilometres in 16 years, I mean.
So you're looking forward to driving it?
Yeah, I'm going to drive it a little bit, you know. It's a really worrying car. You've got some cars because everything's built, you know, will that world hold? Because some of the world I did myself, I don't know. I think the car, unless it gets invited somewhere now, it's done showing, you know. I think something like this, if they did another one in 10 more years, I'll probably bring it. I do have something new I'm trying to get going. It's sitting on the chassis table, the body's in the spray booth, and the running gear and everything's on the chassis table. So I've got something else that I like to, I want to prove it's not a fluke, you know, so I'd love to have another crack at it, and just with something, it's totally different to this. It's really, really different. So I want to have another crack and just see what I could do, even in today's, because in 16 years things have gone up.
It's really, nice. You know, every level of car, all these cars, I'd like to think, you know, in the Show Car Hall of Fame have inspired it's almost inspired the next, and you can just see that everything's just keeps going up.
This hall inspires me.
Yeah.
And I have one of them. I'm a pretty huge critic of my car, so I don't know whether it fits in here, but it certainly looked good in with all these cars. You know, my son reckons it fits right in, so I'll take his word over mine.
I'm with him, mate.
On that one.
I'm with him, Daryl. I reckon it fits right in.
Yeah, you know, and after 16 years, I think second oldest car in here behind Les Lorries, I think I'm pretty proud of what it's achieved and where it's gone, you know. Not everybody likes everything. I like all sorts of cars, every sort of car, and what I'll tell people is that you don't have to, you like that type of car, you have that brand, but you can appreciate it no matter what car you like. You can appreciate a really well-built car, you know what I mean? And I think you go in with that attitude, all the cars in here are winners, you know. So this hall's awesome. Both this and the Superstars are really at a level again, you know. So
perfect. That's it. We thank Daryl for giving us a walk around the ute. Boosted, if you would have seen it over the years. If you see it at another show soon, maybe check it out again.
Maybe in another 10 years.
That's it.